Right, James, I'm going to put it to you, mate. I've interviewed quite a few of the other guys, and they've summed up the performance in one of three ways: tiredness, lack of transfer window affecting the team, and straight out old money bottling it. Where do you stand, or is it a combination of all three?
I'm just not good enough. That's a fourth.
Yeah, actually, yeah.
Yeah, it's not very good, or not as good.
So my supplementary to that is, how do you explain that we've possibly come from having our best performance of the season against Man City, 5-1, everybody jumping around, hooping and hollering, to this, where we just never got in the game at all, just didn't get started? What do you put that down to?
Yeah, well, if you want some somewhat analytical thoughts around it, if I can give that. I guess the difference between City and Newcastle, we were at home against City. I think there was a clearer idea of what we had to do. Stopping their fullbacks, they were going to play out the back. We know that we're very good on the press, so we created that early moment. We obviously scored from it. We should have scored a second from Havertz, and the momentum was with us. And then Man City lack energy in the midfield. They certainly lack kind of real kind of dynamism on the wings in that game. And Newcastle had all that. They had energy in the middle. They didn't try to play out the back. That's not a criticism. That's just something I've noticed. And they were really, really good at finding Isak, Gordon and Murphy constantly in space and behind. They're very direct in a good way. None of this is a criticism. I thought they were brilliant. I think in both ties, Newcastle demolished us tactically. So it was a different game. It didn't play to our strengths, and we had to do something a bit more inventive and magical, and we don't have that. So I can't really sit here and lose my head, Laurie, because it's the same old problems, same old things, and they had the nerve to brief, because obviously journalists get information from wherever, and obviously there'll be people within the club that may have their part to say, and we're told, well, Arsenal couldn't find the perfect nine. Okay. Maybe there's that perfect £100 million number 9 you want to get in the summer. So you didn't want to get a £60 million 9 now. But what about the midfielders we need to add? Martin Odegaard's the only creative, and I still think he lacks on that front. But he's the only creative midfielder in this squad. So what, we don't need one in the summer? We couldn't have brought that in sooner. Then taken the load off Waneri to have to be that backup to Martin Odegaard, or taken the burden off Odegaard to be everything our football's kind of played through. And we could have had some other quality in other ways in the team, even if the front three remained the same. The point is, we couldn't do anything in January. Yeah, that's all come back to bite us. Tiredness is apart. This same team have been, asked to play. I think this is their 11th game of 2025 already. And, they look tired, but ultimately the quality's lacking. We're not very good. And, it's not very good. We've shown on Sunday we're obviously a good team. But we're a very good team. We're a great team. We definitely don't have very good depth. So that cost us tonight.
Also, we've got to factor in, we played Newcastle 3 times this season, lost all 3 games. Do you think there's something about Newcastle that's becoming a bogey team to Arsenal?
Do you know why I say no? St James's Park's a difficult place to go. 30 under Eddie Howe. They've got really good players. Bruno Guimaraes, Tonali, they start for us. Gordon, Isak, they start for us. Murphy on the right starts for us right now without Bukayo Saka. You could have a conversation around their fullbacks, although I like our fullbacks. I think when you look at the game at St James's last season, the 1-0, the push in the back of Gabriel's head, whatever, that was a goal that shouldn't have stood. That's probably a 0-0. Thought we actually played that game quite well. You go to this season's 1-0 defeat, really good goal by Isak. Rice should have scored at the back post. I think we deserved a draw out of that. I thought that we did next to nothing, but we still probably deserved a draw out of that. And then at the Emirates, I thought, whilst they defended well largely and took their 2 chances well, I think there were some chances in that game. All this to say, not that we ever deserved to win those games. Let me not say that, because part of us being bad was that Newcastle stifled us, and you give them real credit for that. But you asked whether there's this kind of mentality block with them. I don't really think so, because I think on another day, we actually played some okay football. Tonight, though, was like, it felt like we were playing Real Madrid at the Bernabeu in a semi-final. Like, we just couldn't handle it. It was really weird. I mean, a lot of players looked like they couldn't handle the occasion. A lot of really sloppy passes. Like, they just looked like they had nerves in their legs, losing duels. You can lose to a physical, really energetic, up for it Newcastle side, but to not get on the ball and play your football and at least show some confidence in possession, I think the first 30 minutes there were some decent little combinations, but the minute they got that first goal, that was pretty much it. And that came around 21 minutes in. So, yeah, we're just a bit of a shambles mentally and technically tonight, and physically. But like I said, Newcastle can do that to most teams.
How much of a crushing defeat, or maybe you don't think it's crushing, how big a disappointment is this defeat tonight? Because I'll tell you why I say that, because off the back of Sunday, when, you know, everything was great and, you know, I mean, we were all dancing and singing and hooping and hollering, a lot of people were saying, you know, with the old Erling Haaland thing, that, listen, you guys not won nothing yet, you're over-celebrating, and, you know, you'll get a real test on Wednesday, let's see how you come up there. It would appear, anyway, that we failed this test miserably. What do you think of those fans who will no doubt, and the pundits, the Gary Neville's, Carragher's of this world, who say, look, this proves that Arsenal are not up to it mentally? What would you say in return to those guys?
Well, Gary's predicted us to win the league, to be fair, so I wouldn't say really anything on that front. Nor would I expect him to, because, like I say, he's predicted us to win the league. I don't think we'll win the league. On the whole, like, well, you had it come in, the stay humble thing. Look, I really don't want to live in a world where you can't enjoy moments. You know, people say, well, what have you won? Trophies, there are 4 of them in a season for a club like Arsenal. For other clubs, there's even less. And most clubs, the vast majority of clubs, are not expected to win trophies. So you've got to enjoy everything in football. It's not just about winning. Now, that is the expectation for a club the size of Arsenal Football Club. When you haven't done it for so long, that becomes absolutely the target. That should be the target every year. I'm not absolving Arsenal of that, but what I'm saying is, I don't want to live in a world where we can't enjoy the fact we beat Man City 5-1. You know, and that we shouldn't have our fun with it. And I said that when Erling Haaland did his pointing to the badge, you know, the golden crest, brilliant. Good on him. That's fantastic. That's the back and forth we want. I'd much rather that than him whinging in the media that he felt disrespected. He didn't do that, nor would I expect him to do that. I actually think Erling Haaland gets what this is about. It seems to be the media that have cried more about it than actually the Man City players or Erling Haaland himself, right? So that was just a side point. The whole stay humble thing, we'll take that now. That's fine. But the whole, you know, there we go, don't enjoy yourself till you won something, I think it's a bit ridiculous. Maybe, you know, there's obviously a level you can go to. City can shout about a lot more than we can, but to say we can't enjoy ourselves is ridiculous. Anyway, side plot. To those who say that we didn't, you know, this was a test and we failed it, but I mean, who was expecting us to pass it? I predicted a 1-1, and that was seen as like negative. Like, I was, you know, some people thought, you know, we could go there and get a win, but I went for a 1-1, thinking, yeah, I'm trying to be hopeful. We might be, you know, it might be a valiant effort. Newcastle are a good team, and we haven't, you know, the Man City game, I think we showed a lot, you know, we obviously did a lot of good stuff in that game. We showed a lot of quality at times, but Newcastle was always going to be a different test in terms of trying to break them down. And I didn't feel that we added anything in January, nor unlocked anything tactically, or developed anything in terms of players that was going to make me think that that was going to be different in this game. I thought it was going to be the Emirates, but worse. And it was. I mean, still 2-0, but it was a worse performance. We weren't in this. I mean, the game of the Emirates, you at least felt we were in it. This game, no, Newcastle had us right where they wanted us. Right where they wanted us, yeah.
Yeah, it was always going to be a difficult game. I agree with much of what you said there. I think the disappointment for me and a lot of fans, and I'm sure you're the same as well, was the manner of the defeat. We just didn't get anything going, and that was clearly a disappointment. But you mentioned something there that I want to end on, and that is the transfer window, the lack of activity, I think it's fair to say. Do you think that has played any part in today's game, or even going forward, the way the fans are talking about it? Do you think that Monday was such a palpable disappointment that it's kind of cast a bit of a spectre over the club?
I think it could have. I think I've never obviously been a professional footballer. I'm trying to imagine, you know, how would you feel if you're a player? Do you just think, well, I get on with the job, and I've got my mates here, and I know my teammates, and less players means I play? Or do you go, no, we really want to win things, and we want to play with some of the best players in the world? And I actually think back to Sunday football I'd play at the age of 14, 15. And, you know, you'd have your team, and you were either good or you were bad, and I played for good and bad teams. And you'd have your mate who was a really good player, who was that baller at school, and you'd say, come join our team, and you were excited by the idea of him being in your team. And I think pros must feel the same, surely. Surely they were thinking, give us some quality, give us some help, show some ambition, bring someone in that was going to lift everything. So maybe the players absolutely felt as dejected as we did. and maybe that showed in the performance. I think the lack of activity in January was far more damaging, potentially even for the long term, than the club and anyone who's defended it might think. And I don't want to be hyperbolic about it, but I think it's really easy to say, well, we didn't do anything in January because we didn't want to disrupt summer plans, so wait 5 months and that's going to happen. 5 months, a lot can happen in 5 months. And what if it's in those 5 months that you lose Saliba? But what if that's when he goes, I've given it 3 seasons. And they loaned me out for the 2 seasons before that. So 5 years I've kind of been on this journey with Arsenal Football Club, and I know Real Madrid are knocking. And that could be true of maybe 3-4 players. The summer plans and the justification for January won't matter if this season collapses, ends in a complete shambles, and we're finding ourselves really wrestling to keep our players, or at worst even losing them. So I think it's easy to just say, well, in the short term, we have to think about the long term. The long term could be damaged by what we did in January. I know it sounds very dramatic, but I think it potentially could be. And who knows? If I'm thinking that, what if that's in the heads of some fans? What if that's in the heads of some players? I don't know. I think ambition and intention can set the tone a lot for a football club. And maybe the players were feeling it a little bit. But I will also say, just to add, sorry, I know I've rambled on, but just to say, if that is the case, for a cup semi-final, I wouldn't necessarily excuse the players for that. I know I've just done a lot of explaining, but that's not necessarily justifying. I think the players at the same time, this is a cup semi-final, they had to be up for it. And I think while Arteta got things wrong, while January window was poor, a lot of them really, for want of a better word, shit the bed tonight. I thought they looked really poor and really nervous and not at all handling the occasion mentally well enough. And they got to hold that with or without signing. That's not good enough.
Okay, James, thanks very much. Cheers.